Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. African father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. African father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. African father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javan Okello, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.
Thank you for being here with me again for another amazing session of the Daily African Proverbs. My name is Simon Okello. I'm in Seattle, Washington, and I'm excited to be here with you with another African proverb. Today's proverb says that a fish and bird may fall in love, but the two cannot build a home together. I picked this proverb because of a conversation I was a part of last night and this morning as well. And this conversation was primarily focused on interracial relationships, and I just found it so aligned with this proverb. You know, that conversation is still going on. In fact, it's being curated by Crystal, who works for Clubhouse, and I think she leads partnerships and community engagement. I think that's her title. But I just feel that it's such an important conversation. One, because I am in an interracial marriage, and two, because this proverb actually has some form of an answer to some of the questions people normally ask, some of the things I was hearing in the conversation, because this proverb says a fish and bird may fall in love. So it's okay, you can fall in love with anybody and at any time and in whatever way you want, but the two cannot build a home together. People will always talk. People will always say whatever they want to say. And especially people from your own community and things like that. But as long as you know why you're in love, you can always, stay together and live together forever. But for your entire life, people will be talking, and you will be dealing with these questions of answering people's questions about how did you end up in an interracial relationship, and it's something you have to be prepared to live with. And so for me, when I picked this proverb, first it was inspired by the conversation that's still going on until now. There are over 500 people here on this app, and it's a really well choreographed discussion. People have lost it and they leave the room, then they go back. I went to bed and I left the room, then I went back. But I also just feel that it's such a conversation that is going to enable people to express themselves in ways that is needed, especially in this time of the pandemic, where people really are trying to build trust in order for us to come up with solutions and ways of living beyond our current situation. So that's the interpretation I want to share, but I want to welcome you all, everybody in the room, from my brother the Kikombe, Sean, Beeb, Benhilda, Roger, Darlene, Marcy, and Justin. Thank you all for being here. Here in the Daily African Proverbs, every single day, whenever we gather, we listen to each other's interpretation of these proverbs, and our hope is to gain African wisdom. By the end of our conversation, the things that we hear from each other sharpen us, so that when we go into our day, we feel a little confident because we have a little extra African wisdom, and literally from our ancestors. My mom used these proverbs a lot. she's not here, but these proverbs are still with me. And I'm sure many of you who are of African descent have probably interacted with proverbs in one way or another, but they were shared by people who are no longer here. So that's part of the inspiration for this space, so that we can have a safe space and a form of sacred space where we can dissect African proverbs and learn from one another. So I want to introduce my brother the Kikombe so that he can also share his proverb, his interpretation of today's proverb. And the Kikombe is in Bangkok, Thailand, I believe. He's an educator, he's a photographer, he's an amazing father, and he says that in a world where you can be superhuman, smile at the people around you. Love is the power you bestow upon people. This proverb that we're going to discuss, that the Kikombe is going to lead, a small discussion about, says, a fish and bird may fall in love, but the two cannot build a home together. This is an African proverb. I'm not sure which country it comes from, but it's my latest Instagram post. You can engage with it over there if you're not able to join us on stage. Thank you so much, the Kikombe. The mic is yours.
Jatelo, Simon Javan Okelo. Jatelo is a Luo word meaning leader. Jatelo, it is such a privilege to be introduced by you. I don't know how I merited this level, but I appreciate you and I thank you for that. Thank you. If the universe has given you reason to see another day and you're just waking up, then I hope that the rest of your day will be worth it. If you have been in for a couple of hours, then I hope that the rest that you have to spend with the sun up will be worth it. If yours is setting, like those of us who live in Thailand, then I hope that the day that you had was worth it. I salute you all. Thank you. I am the Kikombe, and I am excited to be here today because I'm struggling. I'm struggling with this proverb. I do have my interpretation, but after I listened to Simon, I'm kind of hesitant to share the same. But straight away, I'd like to say that I liken this proverb to a proverb that we had a few days ago, or no, a few weeks ago, apologies. And it is a proverb that said that when you love someone who doesn't love you, it's like shaking a tree to make dewdrops fall. I liken this proverb to that, and that will be my interpretation when I share it later on, after I introduce this phenomenal person who now has a bio. This person finally got a bio. In her bio, she has a quote from Nido Kubman and Karen Curry Parker. This person says that your present circumstances do not determine where you can go. They merely determine where you start. And this is a quote from Nido Kubman. The other quote that she has in her bio says, we amplify our power when we unify our vision. Faith stabilizes everything. This is a quote from Karen Curry Parker. Sean Anderson, I have to tell you, this is one of my favorite quotes that you have in your bio, and I appreciate that. But I'm really looking forward to your interpretation for today's proverb, which is my current profile picture on Clubhouse, and says, a fish and bird might fall in love, but the two cannot build a home together. Sean, microphone is yours.
Thank you so much, the Kikombe. I really appreciate it. This morning was interesting. It always seems to be when I come into this room, but I clicked on the button to come in and it automatically put me on stage. So I was surprised to find myself here so quickly. And I would also like to know, what does the Kikombe stand for? If you don't mind me asking, I just don't know what it means and what it stands for. Can I ask that really quickly before I give my interpretation?
Absolutely. Do you want the short answer or would you like the in-depth answer?
Oh my gosh, I would love the in-depth answer, but I will leave it up to you whether you want to share the in-depth answer or the short answer. I will take either one.
I'll try and be brief, Sean. So, direct translation for kikombe is the cup. And the overview idea that I have is a cup, you don't drink from a cup if you know that it's going to harm you. When you drink from a cup, you know that it is going to transform you, it's going to change you, it is going to grow you, it is going to change your life to a certain way. But the in depth answer is the Kikombe is actually an acronym. The K stands for knowledge, the I is information, the next K is for keenness because we pay attention. The O is open mindedness. Doesn't matter who you are, we will welcome you. M is for mindfulness because we want to be balanced. We want to be mindful of how we treat people and how we communicate with people. B is balance. We can take photos, we educate, we share stories, we go on and on with voiceovers and so on. E is education or enlightenment. Kikombe, Kikombe. Sean, microphone is yours.
Thank you. That was wonderful. That was profound, just like almost everything you say. So thank you for sharing that with me. I appreciate it. This proverb's amazing for me and actually ties into something when I was on stage talking the other day when I was talking about how sometimes we, in the proverb that was given that day, and I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what it was, but for me in my interpretation, it reminded me about how it's so important for us to learn how to love ourselves really profoundly and wholeheartedly 100% of the time, and if we can do that, that can be a strong source to sustain us. And this proverb, it strikes a similar chord for me, and especially of my own experience. As I had said before, I had this experience in November of 2019 that really just utterly destroyed me, and it had everything to do with love. A very I had experienced the most profound, just really, there's no way to describe it, love that I had ever experienced in my entire lifetime, and honestly, I feel that I will ever experience in my lifetime. And on that day in November, I came to the realization that there was just really no way that I would be able to live with that love. And not because there was no reciprocation or anything like that, but because due to um, society, due to cultural constructs, due to all kinds of things, that it really just wasn't in the best interests of myself or the other person or our community or those around us, and that love is not just constricted to two individuals, but it also involves society, and that sometimes the most powerful experiences and the most powerful motivators and the most powerful loves that we have sometimes just aren't able to exist in their complete fullness within the places where we're currently at. The world just isn't, our minds and the way we live as people are just, we really aren't ready for that, for something of that nature and that level. And so out of respect and love for not only myself but the other person and everybody else around me, I realized that I had to figure out how to live without being in the direct light of that love. So it was very much like a fish and a bird falling in love, but they really can't build a nest, you know. However, that doesn't mean that love that love is futile or that love is sterile. It means that we have to invent ways and we have to create ways to allow that love to be able to exist, and allow it to exist in the ways that it can. So in permaculture, there's this movement called permaculture, and it's about how to sustainably farm and live on your land. And in permaculture, there's this concept of an ecotone, and it's where water meets land. It's where two very different things come together and meet. And the beautiful thing about ecotones is that it is a space where nothing else can exist. The things that exist in an ecotone are so unique and so spectacular that they can't live anywhere else. They can only live in that space. Like the organisms and the plants and things like that can only live where those two disparate masses meet. So, such as land and water, for example, that's where you find the crabs and the the anemones and the kelp and all those different kinds of things, but they can't exist anywhere else because it's only in the magic of that space where two different things come together. But also too, in that, the land doesn't change, it still remains land, and the water doesn't change, it still remains water. But in that space where they meet is where they give a little bit of each. And so that's where I find myself as learning, in this proverb, that's where I find myself as a bird. How do I learn how to live loving a fish without losing that love and without giving up on that love? How can I make magic happen to allow other things to grow and flourish and bloom and to be able to change? The way we perceive these things and the way we experience these things. And so for me particularly, where I stand in that right now is, I have to learn how to love myself first and be strong in that, and that helps me weather all the rest of the pain that comes with things like separation and stuff like that. And it's a journey, and I don't really have any answers other than it's a worthy experience, and that it doesn't just, as Simon was talking about, this, he was talking about interracial relationships. We find these situations everywhere all the time, and it can be, between interracial relationships, it can be intercultural relationships, it can, be between a man and a woman that for some reason, culture demands that they can't love each other. But figuring out how to love each other even in these impossible circumstances, I think, is really what will transform the world, and how to love ourselves in these circumstances, that how to maintain our value, because it's very easy to lose your value in a situation like that, to forget that you do have value, because it's a very painful situation to be in. But learning how to maintain that value and maintain that sense of self and maintain that love, and in the face of that impossibility, is just really so. I really feel that as we all continue to rise to that occasion, and to hold ourselves up in those spaces, and learn to love in those spaces, that it'll really change everything and change the world. So thank you so much for allowing me to share. I'm not sure how I found myself on the stage, but I yield the mic. Thank you.
Sean, thank you so much for sharing. I think it was perhaps destiny that led you onto stage, but I might be a bird speaking fish language, though I might be wrong in that. I like what you say about making magic happen, and it actually reminds me of the educator in me and what we often say. We say sometimes we have to make that magic happen so that we can accommodate others that may not be able to be seen as fitting in. And I like the lessons that you give us about the ultimate lesson that you learned about love, that sometimes people reach decisions that define norms of society about love. And love sometimes is not just a duo, but it's a societal kind of responsibility. And if we aren't ready for the intensity that love brings with it, perhaps respect for the other party is mindful enough to take a step back. Sean, I appreciate that lesson. I will take that with me everywhere I go. Thank you very much. Um, at this point, I do have the pleasure for the second time in a row, 2 days in a row, to introduce a 3 times international best-selling author, a spiritual poet whose books are available on Amazon. First book is Rhapsody of Love. The other book is Surrender. The other one is Oneness. Her intention is to continue being an embodiment of love and gratitude in oneness with all and only give love, gratitude, and forgiveness. This 85 years young lady by the name of Zina Mubaraka Gatit is an Egyptian Canadian educated in the USA, a retired clinical psychologist and spiritual healer with 35 years of experience. She says she intends to impact and inspire others, one person at a time. I'm not talking about anybody else. I'm talking about our beloved Zizi, whose lesson yesterday taught me that challenges caused by people are means of learning and elevation for ourselves. Mama Zizi, I'm looking forward to your interpretation for today's proverb. Microphone is yours, beloved.
Thank you so much, Kikamba. I love you and I love Simon and his music. He's just a saint, this man. I have no other words by that. And I'm honored to be on his stage here. Actually, we may be in each other's hearts because that's exactly why I have the picture of the child. Because I recognize that, you know, I have not had a lot of fun in my life, and I can afford at the age of 85 and the spirit of a 25 to have a little bit of joy, love, and fun. But then I realized that I used to look at older people and say, oh, they seem to be so uptight and boring. But then, having two sons, one of them is a physician specializing in gastroenterology, and the other one is a corporate lawyer. And I see the impact these difficult days have on them, trying to balance their work, their jobs, their homes, their families and trying to do a good job. My heart goes out to them. I realize now that it's not boredom and it's not lack of fun, it's exhaustion from trying to be young. I mean, they are in their 50s now, and so are all of you, probably earlier than that, living with a job and family responsibilities, balancing all the demands upon you. It's a very taxing situation, especially now with the corona and the lockdowns and up and in and out and all that. Now we have even election again in Canada, federal election. So all these things bring a lot of turmoil and a lot of overwhelm. So I see that I am fortunate at this age because I have no responsibilities to speak of, and I can afford to have some of that fun and the love that I liked growing up and having those responsibilities, plus having this handicap that I have. But I realized yesterday one thing. There's one thing that was missing in my life since I sat on the wheelchair, and I thought I'd share it in case anybody is either in this situation or has someone in it, is to know that it is impossible to give a real hug to a person on a wheelchair. It is so difficult because of the hardware of the chair that gets into the way. The other difficulty is that it's very difficult to have eye contact and to talk to them in public unless you're sitting across each other from a table, or at home, or in their home, or in a private place where you can get on your knees and be at the same eye level and talk to them so they feel they're being talked with rather than talked to from an upper to a lower eye level. So try as much as possible to try and have those moments of eye contact. It is sort of a heart, rendering moment. And that's why I put that picture of the child, because I'm so fortunate that I can feel like a child and ask for the things I require and need, because we are always embarrassed to say, okay, give me a hug. I need a hug. I need to be loved. I need to be touched. But at this age, I think I can do that. I can afford it. I don't have as many responsibilities. And I know what I need. So I'd love to be living like a childlike person with the innocence and authenticity that they do have. It's such a heartwarming thing to see a child play. You just feel so much younger and so much happy to see a child with his innocence or her innocence. And I think living with a child and an older person, it's like sometimes it feels like the bird and the fish, because young people don't find older people interesting or worth having a discussion with. And I can understand that, because sometimes I feel the same way with some of the older people who act adult and don't allow that inner child to play, you know. So thank you so much, Simon and Kikomba. I love you both for sharing that, because a child and an older person can be exactly like the bird and the fish. Thank you for allowing me to share. I love you all.
Mama Zizi, thank you. Mama Zizi, thank you so much for sharing such profound wisdom with us. Um, I'm not sure how I can respond to the lesson I've learned today, but I know that I have a point of reflection about what you say about how impossible it is to give a real hug to someone in a wheelchair, and how perhaps to make proper eye contact, then I should position myself to the same eye level as somebody who is physically positioned below. So thank you. And I can assure you that I will forever try and let my inner child play. And I will not try to be a fish when I'm meant to be a bird, or not to be a bird when I'm meant to be a fish. Thank you so much, Mama Zizi. I appreciate the lesson. Thank you very much. Simon, if you allow me, I would like to introduce BB. Brother Simon?
Please go ahead. This is Simon. Please go ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. First of all, I need to mention something here. Several days now, I've introduced uh, Beatrice Wiley, and I've often referred to her as Beeb. But I'd like to apologize on behalf of me and my ignorant past that her name is Bibi, but she says that I choose pain over numbness any day. Ask me why. Bibi has such an amazing and inspirational life. She has such an amazing and inspirational story. And I remember a few of her really great lessons I've learned based on the past is sometimes you just have to let it be. Sometimes you just have to hope. Bibi, from what I've learned, was able to run a 3 mile, no painkillers whatsoever, despite going through a tragic misfortune. Bibi says happiness is an inside job, and do not assign anyone else that much power over you, over your life. She says that she's a trauma survivor with a terrible car accident that ended with both legs and arms broken, with traumatic brain injuries. She is a child of war and a refugee and a war survivor. But she says that she's a spirit thriving to live peacefully, lovingly, and kindly. Baby, microphone is yours. Please tell us your interpretation for today's proverb, which is my current profile picture. And thank you, BB, for reminding me to do the same. In my current profile picture, and the proverb says, a fish and bird might fall in love, but the two cannot build a home together. Microphone is yours, beloved Queen.
Thank you so much, Kikombe, for that beautiful introduction. And as always, Simon, thank you so much for keeping this ship sailing, because it has become my daily ritual now, actually, to come in here. And I must say, the new time works perfectly well for me as well, because well, it's 8:30 my time here, but I usually take my daughter to school around around 7:30. So 7:30 until 8 o'clock is when we're in line waiting for her to go in. Then at 8 o'clock, that's when we're on our way coming back with the other one. So it just gives me the right time to get home and be able to chill and actually share and listen with everyone. So I love this new time. Thank you. And as far as my interpretation, my mind went straight to a human and a dog, because dogs are different kinds of animals, and they're loving, caring, and protective of us. And we're humans, another different kind of animals too. We love each other. We're good for each other, but we can never marry because it just will not be right. I don't know, but it just doesn't fit. So no matter what we try, it just couldn't. So that would be my interpretation. It's like humans and dogs, they can be loving and be good to each other, but they can never marry. So that's all I'll have to say for today. Thank you so much.
BB, thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate that. Um, yeah, that's an interesting one. Humans and dogs. I didn't see that coming, so thank you very much for sharing that with us. If you're new into the room, you will notice that in this room, when somebody has shared their interpretation for the proverb, sometimes they will be put back into the audience. Please take it with positive intent, because sometimes we just try and create space up in the stage for other people to share. We share here so that we can understand how others are interpreting the proverbs. We share with the intention to listen, to understand, not listen to judge. So thank you very much for those who have come up on stage and gallant enough to come and share with us. When I look at this proverb, as I mentioned earlier, I liken this proverb to a proverb that we had discussed a few weeks ago, and it said that to love someone who does not love you is like shaking a herb or a tree so that the morning dew drops fall. And to me, I think, when I look at the proverb that says a bird and fish might fall in love, but the two cannot build a home together, a bird might strike that honey of love. A bird may at some point finally, what we say, get laid, get little nestlings and so on. A fish might strike that right moment and bring up some little ones, which I actually learned today that the little ones of fish are called fry when they're able to kind of feed themselves. So anyway, now some fish might decide that they prefer a little flavor, and if not adventure, they might find their ways to shake a tree, hopefully to invite the birds to some fish to bird action, so they can get some fish to bird action. Now, while some of the birds may decide to hang out with fish, throwing their feathers into the water so that their fish can find some pleasure and so on. Now, While the birds find momentary satisfaction with the fact that both the birds and the fish have tails, just the fact that they have tails, sometimes their needs will draw them apart. They might have tails to share sort of identity, but their needs are so different. Their natural needs will tell them, look, you cannot breathe underwater. You cannot go above sea level. You can admire, you can want, you can chase, you can capture that which you should not have or possibly cannot have, but you cannot force desire to be eternal love. Lust and love are different. Want and love are different. So you cannot force eternal love for that which you shouldn't have. I am the Kikombe, and I'd like to yield my microphone to Brother Simon.
Thank you so much, my brother the Kikombe. I just enjoy listening to you lead the conversation, and I've also really enjoyed listening to the recording of each of our conversations sooner than I used to. This week we started going live on YouTube as well during this conversation. So we have we have a community of people who they don't want to be on Clubhouse, so they can listen to our conversation on you, because we are live streaming this conversation on YouTube even as we speak. So I've been forced to listen back sooner than I used to, because previously I would just send all the episodes of our daily African Proverbs conversation to the editor to edit them into podcast episodes, and that takes just a little longer. So the Kikombe, I've listened to you a little more, and I just appreciate just your contribution to this space and how you bring yourself 100%. It just means so much. And to everyone who is joining us for the Daily African Proverbs, this is something that we've been doing every single day since January of this year. And this is a space that everyone is welcome. It does not matter where you are or which country you come from, or what color you have on your skin, or how much you have on your bank account. We are here because we just want to make our ancestors proud. We want to make them smile, because we are gathering here from all across the world with the intention of dissecting an African proverb and gaining wisdom from it. This is very important, especially for us who are raising our children so far away from our villages where these proverbs came from. So thank you for being here, and thank you for doing this work together with us. If you are not able to join us on stage at this moment, we've turned off hand raising, which we do at 6:30 a.m. Every morning during the Daily African Proverbs. And right after the Daily African Proverbs, before 7:15 a.m. Every morning, the Kikombe and I also go live on Instagram to recap our conversation here. We primarily talk about, what was surprising, what stood out, and also what was the biggest lesson. And a lot of the time we have special guests that join us for that as well. So thank you for being here. I really am excited to introduce Chido. Chido is a pillar to the Daily African Proverbs. Chido Samantha Mbavarira. I just love calling you in your full names. It's just perfect. She's an online business strategist by day and being human on Clubhouse by night. And Chido believes that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Chido has lived in a number of countries across the world, but she's from Zimbabwe. She's currently in the east coast of the US, I believe. Or on the east coast of Canada. Anyhow, Chido, nice to see you. I hope you are doing well. I'll pass you the microphone.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Simon. And I honestly love every time you say my full name, because not many people can say it. So it is music to my ears. They say if you ever want to give somebody the biggest compliment is to say their name. Apparently, it increases endorphins in their brain. So the more we say people's names, apparently they're more attracted to us. So you make me very happy when you say my full name because I don't hear that very often. So I appreciate that, Simon. And so happy to see my brother Johnny, the Combe on stage. It's always great to hold space with you guys. And I'm excited to hear. Oh, and Jay's here. Hey, Jay. Let me PTR. Hi, Jay. I'm so excited to hear everyone's interpretation of this proverb because I had more questions than answered because I feel um, some vulnerability coming ahead. I feel like this is one of the biggest crux to love I always ask. So I have more questions, and I'm really hoping people on stage may help me reconcile this proverb for me. The proverb today is a bird and a fish and a bird may be in love, but the two cannot build a home. And this is the question I always ask, the sentiment of this proverb. I ask myself this about love all the time because this proverb is describing, for me, if I use the relationship concept, two very different people in different worlds. And they're in love, which is one of the most powerful feelings that we can ever feel or receive or give to anyone, but yet they can't, where they're going to build a home. And I think a lot of people build homes in places they're not supposed to, and an element of self-abandonment that happens with love. I feel like somebody has to compromise their very nature to cohabitate and love. So that is something I struggle with how much do I need to self-abandon for love? How much of myself do I need to let go or change for love? So that definitely hit a sore spot for me because I do not know the answer to this question. So the ancestors are definitely playing a good riddle on me. So I don't know if anyone else has kind of broken down the proverb in that context, but I'm very interested if anyone can help me reconcile this. But that was the first thing that came up to me is what can we learn from the ancestors about building a home that's maybe different from yours, but still being in love and hopefully not self-abandoning too much of who you are in the name of love. So more questions, and I hope some people may help me with this. So very thoughtful for me today.
Hey Chido, this is Simon speaking. I wanted to say that Livia, who is one of our moderators and co-creators of this space, had a very similar interpretation to what you're saying. She could not be here, but she sent her interpretation in our back channel. Do you want to share it with the room? I think you are going to be amazed by what she had to say too.
Oh my, I haven't even read it, so that's we must be on the same wavelength. I would love to go and see what Olivia said. Olivia's interpretation says long-lasting love relationships are built on positive compromises. The fish and the bird. One has to give up its natural habitat. How can you live underwater if you live in the sky? Very good question. However, the fish is the bird of the sea. Maybe they have more in common than we think. Let's take a flight through the water and a swim through the sky before we part. Who knows what the ancestors have had in mind with this proverb? It might just be a challenge for us to try. Oh, that is great. I did not even read that, but that's exactly what I was thinking. And I think Olivia leaves a very hopeful sentiment in like how do we try? I think it's a give and take kind of relationship. When is it too much to give up and too much to take? I think that's a balance that two people have to do very well. I think when that is balanced, that's amazing if you can find that. But I love that Olivia and I were on the same wavelength with this. But with that being said, that's what came up for me. I'm excited to be introducing Kimberly and then Hilda to the stage. Kimberly, welcome. You are a voice actor, I see. You have a t-shirt brand. I am Silver Vixen. That sounds amazing. I cannot wait to hear your voice because you are into voice radio commercials and you narrate for vlogs. You're the creator of I Am Silver Vixen t-shirt line for men and women making gray hair sexy 40 and up, and I love your profile because your hair looks amazing. Welcome to the Daily African Proverbs. The proverb of today is a fish and a bird may fall in love, but the two cannot build a home together. Welcome, Kimberly. I yield the mic on to you.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Cheeto. I certainly appreciate it. I am with Sean. She spoke earlier and said how she has no idea how she got on stage. I feel the same way. I actually absolutely love listening to you all, and I've just never felt the courage to kind of speak because I like listening. But here's my thought about the proverb, and I love that the Kikombe put it in such simple terms. A fish and a bird may fall in love, but where do they live? Right? Well, there was a movie, The Cinderella Story in the 90s, and that line was used. And the answer was, I just may have to build you wings. So the question for me became, do we have to wholly submerge in each other to coexist successfully? And the answer for me is no. I have a love relationship, and it had been rocky, similar to what Sean experienced. But rather than falling by the way of what society said or what my family said, my love and I decided that although he is from a different um, social construct than myself, we decided to meet at the middle, like in the ecosystem Sean talked about. There is a space, a particular perfect point in that ecosystem where a fish and a bird can both survive, not fully in the water and not fully out of the water. And they can thrive while still respecting the other individual's needs, that's in the land or in the sky. And I just think that as people, as human beings, we are in a society that puts so many different rules on what we do and don't do. I think love is where we really have to take control and choose to do it differently. And like Mama Zizi said, we have to let the difficulty of love and perspective. It's so important to speak with older people because they give you that different perspective, and I love that. So I just choose to make the difficulty I find in loving someone or being friends with someone or doing business with someone. The difficulty in the differences, I try to learn in that and grow and let that teach me something. So that's kind of what I got from the proverb. Although it may be difficult, we don't have to give ourselves completely, like Cheeto explained, to self abandonment. We don't have to do that to love someone. So that's just my thought. And thank you guys so much for allowing me to speak.
Cheers, speaking. Kimberly, I'm so happy you came right after I said that because you gave me so much comfort in your interpretation. It was such a hopeful one because you do acknowledge there is some, but like you said so eloquently, it's how do you find that coexisting between it, because you will come in, the bird will go into the water and the fish may go in the sky, but you just would left me feeling hopeful and not as troubled as I was this morning when I was trying to reflect on this. So I appreciate you coming up and doing what I love that happens in the space when people come and give us answers to our questions and take us somewhere else or give us a new interpretation. So you left me very hopeful
I'm
today.
glad.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing. You're so appreciated. And Sean, I wish I heard your interpretation because it sounded amazing. And I really did love ZZ's in connecting it with, people who have loved and lost long before us as ways to reconcile with this proverb. So I really appreciated ZZ's interpretation as well as other people who've come on stage. Next, I have the pleasure of introducing my Southern African sister, Vinhilda. Vinhilda is from South Africa, and she's the creator of the South African Club. She is the Red Line Club host of African Series, and you're a citizen. You're a citizen of the world. You're in policy and governance, and you work in the intersection of business, design, compliance, and conflict. Welcome, Vinhilda. It's so great to see somebody from my parts of the world, coming up on stage and sharing interpretation today with us. The proverb today: a fish and a bird may fall in love, but the two cannot build a home together. I pass the mic on to you. Welcome.
Hello. So I don't know if there's too much background noise. I'm literally at the school pickup, but I have like 15 minutes between my two children's pickup classes. So
You sound
basically, oh,
perfect. You sound
okay,
perfect.
perfect. Oh, so Chido as well. Like I'm Zimbabwean.
Oh, yay!
Yes. So I'm not South African. I'm Zimbabwean, but like I subscribe to a broader Southern African model, just because of the commonalities that we have across the region. So this proverb to me is very interesting, and I'm also going to go back to what Sean was saying. So when Sean spoke about like that interface between the water and the land, so like I'm a founder of a fashion reg tech, and um, and I'm also like a fashion designer, and my prince and my mascot and my icon is penguins, right? And penguins are, I've always loved penguins just because they are a beauty of Africa that's often overlooked, that's often misplaced as being from the North Pole and not from the South Pole. And never, there's never like a penguin safari, right? But to me, they're some of the most beautiful creatures that we have on the continent. We've got penguin colonies. I think there's three colonies in the South Atlantic along the Cape. Um, and penguins are those creatures that live both in water and land and can really not be able to live completely in water and fully in land, right? They're a flightless bird, but they can swim. And so when I look at this proverb, I think like Olivia and Judah have said, to me it's a challenge, right? Um, and I'm a divorced woman, and the man I'm divorced from, I'm still told today like I should go back with him because I suppose I'm a fish and he's a fish. So sometimes like, and I'm adamant like he's a fish and I'm a a bird. We're just not the same kind of person. But onlookers can never be able to tell that, right? So like I've learned to not be able to trust people because of how wrong they could absolutely positively be in judgment. So Sean also spoke about how culturally and community-wise there was, the relationship that she had to kind of step away from was just not, acceptable. And so like I've grown to challenge that because my relationship was fully acceptable. It's still encouraged even to this day. Like I've been divorced 3 years and people will still be like, "Are you getting back together?" I'm like, "We're really not. Like we're just so different." But you just could never tell by reading our profiles, by reading our LinkedIn's, by reading like our life stories. You'd be certain that we should be together, and I'm certain that we should not. And so I think my takeaway is, sometimes what what appears to be two fishes, like basically nobody can tell you what a fish is and what a bird is, right? Sometimes people will place you in the completely wrong environment. And sometimes the noise of our communities, especially in African culture and African societies, and I don't know about Black societies in the diaspora, are so intense and so strong that you might be misplaced like a penguin, right? A lot of people believe that penguins and polar bears have met and they're all together in the North Pole with Santa Claus at Christmas, when penguins have never crossed, right, the equator, at least during like our era of history. Penguins are firmly in the south, but because the narrative has always been like, oh, these ice creatures should be together, that's not true. So my takeaway is don't be too quick to judge what a fish looks like and what a bird looks like. And there's penguins. Thank you. I'm done speaking.
Cheetah speaking. Thank you so much, Mahilda. You brought us like so much. You gave us geography, you gave us penguins, which actually, ironically, penguins mate for life. And there's a whole thing finding your penguin. It's finding your life mate because they will mate with that person, with that penguin for the rest of their lives. Actually, very loyal and committed ones. But the thing that stood out for me was thank you so much for sharing your narrative. And I love that people come up here and get to open parts of themselves with us. So I appreciate when people do that, and how, you kind of gave caution that because you're a fish, what kind of fish are you? And you're not supposed to be with every fish, and not every bird is supposed to be with a bird. I think it's really we're simplifying it a bit. And just because somebody is aligned with exactly who you are doesn't mean they're for you. And I think that's also something to consider, that sometimes opposites attract, and just because you're a fish or a bird doesn't mean they're for you. And that's something I always repeat to myself: just because somebody is great doesn't mean they're for you. So I think those are very subjective, and a little discernment comes to play when you're thinking about exactly who you should love. It's a little more complex than that. But I really appreciate you coming up and sharing the parts of yourselves and your story, and your love for penguins as your mascot. So I hope we get to hear your voice again, Benhilda. It was so nice to meet you here. Another Zimbabwean queen. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming up and sharing with us. I want to thank everyone who has come up on stage and shared parts of themselves or in the interpretation. We host this room every day at 6 a.m. Pacific time, and you can tweet us, because Simon's live tweeting, or leave a comment on our Instagram. Would love to hear your interpretation or what came up for you. And Simon and the Kinkombe are doing a really great series where they will do an Instagram live and share what came up in our space. So if you'd love to catch that, if you missed Sean's interpretation, I hope they're going to speak about it, because Sean, everyone's talking about it. So I really hope that it's discussed so I can catch that again. But thank you so much for everyone who's joined, and I'm complete. Simon, I pass the mic to you.
Wow, thank you so much, Chido, for your leadership, and thank you so much, Benhilda. I'm so grateful that you chose to spend your time with us today. It means a lot. I'm so excited to hear from everyone else in the room, especially those of us who are on stage. I know we are going to hear from Johnny, who is going to guide the conversation and introduce for us. Hopefully, Johnny, you can introduce Marlene, Raphael, and Kay, and then Jay could introduce Ivna, Dr. Wanda, and Tara. And that would close us out. And right after we end our conversation here in the Daily African Proverbs on Clubhouse, we are going to go on Instagram for about 15 minutes with my brother, the Kikombe. We are going to share with you the recap of the Daily African Proverbs. We will talk about what stood out during our conversation today. We will talk about what was the most surprising, and we will also talk about what was the biggest lesson that we learned from our conversation today. If you want to get to my Instagram to engage with today's proverb, you can click my profile and go all the way to the bottom. You'll be able to see my Instagram profile, which is at Okello Javan. That's where we'll be having the live recap, and also that's where we have the current proverb that we are discussing as the latest post. The proverb says, "A fish and a bird may fall in love, but the two cannot build a home together." A fish and a bird may fall in love, but the two cannot build a home together. This is really amazing. Every day when I show up here in the Daily African Proverbs, I just feel like I'm in a library, because by this time, by the end of the 1 hour session, you've learned so much that you don't know even where to keep some of it. But luckily we are recording it, and we have the recording of this conversation available immediately after the room on YouTube. So the YouTube channel where you can find it at is Simon Javan Okello, just my full names. And you'll be able to get yesterday's conversation and the conversation from the day before yesterday as well. Thanks again for being here with us. My brother Johnny is going to guide the conversation for the next few minutes. Johnny is another amazing pillar of the Daily African Proverbs. He's been supporting the growth of this space since January as well. And he says that he is a man of many titles, but they don't mean anything than happiness. And he's asking that you just connect with him. But really, if you're meeting him for the first time, he's an amazing artist. He's an amazing poet, spoken word, poet, and he's also a community leader. He's a gardener, and he's a leader that we really feel privileged that we share spaces with. My brother, the mic is yours. This is Simon speaking. I think John is away from his mic. I just want to go ahead and introduce Jay. Again, I'm grateful that you're all here with us for this amazing session. And, it's for me, it's every day there's a new layer to the Daily African Proverbs that is added. And it's fun. But especially for those who are watching on YouTube, I want you to understand that I'm multitasking. I'm live tweeting. I'm also engaging on Instagram, and I'm also, paying attention to what's going on here on Clubhouse. So we are actually looking for volunteers who can help us with things like live tweeting, and also just help us to continue keeping this ship afloat. So if you want to learn more, you can DM me, or you can DM Chido or the Kikombe. But we can't do this alone. So we are looking for support, especially time, and also we just want to engage with you all beyond our daily conversation. Again, I want to pass this now to Jay, who is in Seattle, Washington, like myself. And Jay is an amazing leader as well. She's a playwright, she's a poet, spoken word artist. She's a creator of a club just for children. She's a pretend singer, musician, and she's saying go to YouTube on One Vibe TV so that you can check out her performance at Madaraka Festival 2021, which was truly amazing. And she says that the world is thirsty for kindness, happiness, integrity, truthfulness, and love. Be a rejuvenating and refreshing cold glass of water. Wow, thank you so much, Jay. Please guide the conversation for the next few minutes. Thank you for being here.
Dear brother Simon and everyone in the room, it's always an honor for me to be in this room. I feel like I'm really missing out if I'm not here being refreshed, being rejuvenated. I just am so encouraged by all of the different interpretations of the proverb. Kiki Kombe, that was a deep dive. And I was thinking, what am I going to say after that? So I just woke up actually, and I'm going to very, very quickly tell you what I was dreaming. I rarely remember my dreams, but it was on the tail end, and I remember this and it applies to this proverb. Interestingly enough, is that I was in my own home, and this man had been invited into my home, and it wasn't intentional. It was for self-preservation, that I knew that this person had some mental health issues. I could tell that something wasn't quite right. And I was trying to find a way to connect with this person for my own self-preservation. That I was a bird, he was a fish, or vice versa, but there was just no way this relationship could work under any set of circumstances. But I knew that in that moment, that the only way I was going to be able to prevent myself from being injured by this person was to try and connect with this individual in a way that was soft, to try and understand. And then he asked if he could have my car key. So this is a dream. And I was trying to figure out, how am I going to talk him out of taking my car? And then the next part of the dream I was in this hotel and it had 117 floors, and on the top floor was this luxurious restaurant. I was in my jeans. I wasn't dressed to be on the 117th floor in this luxurious restaurant the way everyone else was dressed. But somehow I ended up on that floor. And I honestly felt like a fish out of water. Just the conversation that was occurring in the elevator, it made me feel like I didn't belong. I just didn't belong in that moment, in that time, around these individuals, that I felt that their conversation was really self-serving and shallow. And it annoyed me. And when I got off the elevator, I was looking for the elevator to get me back down to my floor. And it's like the waiters really didn't want to point it out. It's very odd. So anyway, you can figure out how that flows into the proverb, because the word that stood out for me was cannot, cannot, cannot. And I've gone to several operas where you cannot be with this person. And there's always a tragic ending that you can see it coming, you know it's going to happen, and it was avoidable. But that love that you had for that person blinded you. That being said, Miss Marlin, you are up next, and we're so happy to have you and your supervisor, your superpowers, the sun and the stars. You bloom, your mother, your lioness of the alpha male, person of color, open hearted, second generation Mexican American, a witch, a music junkie, a CD collector, and it just goes on and on and on. But the bottom line is that you're an advocate in the social justice movement. You say, I will continue to advocate for BIPOC, people of color, and immigrants until this world is anti-racist. This could be my whole lifetime, and that's okay with me. Book lover Marlon, we would love to hear your interpretation of this proverb, and I'm yielding the mic to you.
Thank you so much, Sister Day. Thank you so much, Simon, Kikombe, Cheeto, Johnny. I always appreciate you having this room extremely, and I can't always join. For example, right now I'm supposed to be working, but this just is really important to me. And you see me up here flashing my mic all the time because, like my bio says, I'm wildly passionate, and I just resonate with so much of what everybody said. But my interpretation, one of the main things about me, I don't ascribe to labels as much, but I just, from who I am, like I love what Johnny has in his bio. I absolutely love that, Johnny, if you can hear me. But what I am is, yes, witch. I'm a Hayoka. That's the most important part of me, because it means that I'm the highest empath. It means I'm the Hayokas. We're very rare, and we're the only ones that can disarm narcissists. We see everybody fully. We can use our powers for good. Dark empaths. I'm not a dark empath. They can use their powers for evil. But basically, all that to say is that I am different. I see the world differently, completely. I've always been that way. And I'm basically like, okay, so the proverb, a fish and a bird may fall in love, but they can't build a house together. I am a fish. And it's funny because my name is Marlin, and a lot of times people confuse it for Marlin. So I think that's a little bit appropriate. So I'll call myself the fish here. And everybody else is either a bird and an elephant or an alligator or whatever. Like everybody is different from me because I see the world differently. It's like I live in a different space than everybody else. If you want to look up Hayoka, it's a very, very interesting thing. It means sacred clown in the Sulakota tribe. And in every culture basically in the world has a form of a Hayoka. So anyway, I can build a house with anybody. So that means that I can relate to anybody. And like even my loved one, for example, my closest loved one who is my partner, my husband, we're very different, but it's like I tell him, I kind of remind him sometimes, like if he calls me weird, I'm like, that's who you fell in love with, but he does it jokingly. And like in every area of my life, I can literally talk to anyone about anything because I am open to everyone. And I like if I'm with next to a coworker, if I'm next to my boss, if I'm with a friend, if I'm in my spiritual sober meetings, if I am at home with my 8-year-old, with my husband, like I can see their side. And so that's what I gathered from it is I can build a house, meaning I can build a relationship with anyone if I choose, because I know how to protect my peace and my container, which is my soul, my thoughts, my love, my experience, my hope inside of me. I protect that. So if I choose to speak to someone these days, it's because I feel that they're adding value to me or I'm adding value to them. And if I don't, then I lovingly and kindly disengage. I don't speak. I just smile and I'm pleasant. I understand others, and people hardly ever understand me, and that's okay with me. I much rather 100% understand others than have others understand me because I know who I am and I know that we're all equal. Everybody has value. I don't care if I'm walking by a homeless person that's asking me for a Dr. Pepper while I walk into 7-Eleven. I'm going to do that for me if I'm able to. You know what I mean? Like they're having a hard time and everybody needs love and kindness. So I'll stop there because I made my point on that. And if you look up Heyoka, you'll understand that, why I talk so much and how I might interrupt and how I just love to express my feelings. If someone is having like a beautiful share, I'm going to be like mashing my mic. So when I'm down in the audience, just know that a lot of times I want to mash my mic. And I love what someone says. Society makes a lot of rules. I mean, that's all they do. It's like we're not living in an organized place that's organized for real human beings. Like we're trying to be controlled. So I absolutely loved it. I wrote that down. I always write notes. Love is where we can take control of our lives, of ourselves. This is just what I gathered. I think that was Kimberly Lindsay. And also, I think maybe she was the same person that said that the elders, they have wisdom. Like here on Clubhouse, I respect Kuma Lawrence from Hawaii and Michelle McEwen. She's an elder from Ireland. She's living in Australia. She works with the wildlife. Like I'm an old soul, anything old. My favorite authors are old. Old stories, old cars, old places, old ideas, not the racist ones. Anything that's ancestral is me. And I just feel like if we get in that space of understanding ourselves fully, we can understand someone else. And I'll leave it off with this. One of my favorite people in the world is another elder. It's Don Miguel Ruiz, who did the 4 agreements. And I have a card here on my desk. It sits on my desk. I have the 4 agreements in like 4 places around my desk in different fashions. And this card is part of the agreement of don't make assumptions. Relinquish the need to change others. And it says real love is accepting other people the way they are without trying to change them. If we try to change them, this means that we don't really like them. It's easier to find someone who is already the way you want him or her to be instead of trying to change that person. Nobody's perfect. Perfect is fucking boring. And I just hope to be a light and continue to be that and just love so that I can build a house with anybody that I meet. And because 99% of the people in this world, it's just something I heard someone say here, they're good, experiences change us. So let's just be kind. Thank you for letting me go so long. I appreciate you all listening.
Thank you, Marlon. Your perspective and your shares greatly, greatly appreciated. That I love the fact that you said that you can build a relationship with almost anyone if you choose. And most importantly, during that choosing, you're always aware of the need to protect your own peace and your own soul. There were other things that you mentioned about that, but that's what really stood out for me is that you have to be aware of yourself, who you are, and that even though you're different and you're kind and you're caring and you've got that old soul where you can actually develop a relationship with someone, you want to make sure that you are still aware of your need to protect your own peace. So, also, that you said that if you're trying to change someone, then you really don't like them as they are, as they are. Thank you so much, Marlon. And now I would love to yield the mic to Raphael, who is a stay at home dad. I'm going to drop down a little further, Raphael, because this is, you're looking for someone to be a guest on your podcast as well. But you indicate that, which is a lot about you. I appreciate all of this information, that you have a background in procurement, negotiating, volunteering, people, organizing, expediting, customer service, travel, storytelling, African football, Marvel movies, independent comments, along with writing and speaking. You have a very full background. Raphael, I look forward to hearing your interpretation of the proverb.
Thank you, Jay, for the lovely introduction. Greetings, everybody, and hope everyone is doing well today. So I'm not going to give a, I won't go into an interpretation. I'll just go with some examples, but to give an example, well, my examples, I'll just say one thing that ties into what my sister Marlene just said. Marlene, I hope I said her name correctly. Forgive me if I butchered the name. Um, Relationships for me don't have to be middle ground or towing to society's expectation, and it should be what works for the two people involved, or more than two in some cases, whatever the number is. And it's not limited to only romantic, as our mama who spoke earlier had said when she talked about dealing with people with disabilities, especially coming from people, elderly people in wheelchairs. But I will expand that to everybody who's in a wheelchair. I had a surgery 3 years ago, and I couldn't walk for 2 months. Yeah, I had to walk with a cane, and that's when I realized how the subway stations around me were not convenient for people with disabilities, whose disability included were dealing with mobility, because we didn't have elevators, so it was a struggle. But that didn't still apply to me, because after 2 months I was back to moving normal at normal speed, and being a typical guy, a typical bro. Everything was fine until I had my daughter. My daughter arrived, and then I couldn't push my stroller down the stairs easily. It was tough. So yeah, there's certain things we don't think about until we hear from people um, dealing with that every day. So it changes your perspective on how you see things. So yes, that's also a relationship, and we must keep that in mind. So now diving into something that I've heard a lot today: interfaith, intertribal relationships. I had my thing I was going to talk about the fish and bird. I grew up around that a lot. It's common in Nigeria. We hear about interfaith, intertribal relationships. Yeah, there are a lot of successful ones that I've seen, and the fish and bird, we don't know who's the fish, we don't know who's the bird. I'm from a tribal, I'm from a riverine tribe, I mean, and so technically we identify with more of the animals in the water, but birds are also riverine, aquatic animals too, depending on what type of bird you're going with. Even a bird like an eagle can still be an aquatic animal because they love stealing fish from the water. So it depends on who's telling the story. But back to intertribal and interfaith relationships. The first example I'll give was when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I wrote, we're given this essay to write in class about who your best friend is. And I wrote about the person I picked as my best friend was a Muslim, and then I was still active. Well, I was at that age. I didn't have the chance to pick religion, or I was still Catholic, and then later I became evangelical. Um, and then now I'm not in. But I wrote this a Muslim boy was my best friend, and I got in trouble for that because the person who wished he was my best friend told my the most evangelical person in my house. He was mad that I didn't write his name, so he went and told my family, and the most evangelical person heard, and I got chewed out for claiming a Muslim is my best friend. I was a 7 or 8 year old kid, and you start telling that child, why are you calling a Muslim your best friend? Why do you want a Muslim to be your best friend? Do you want to switch to Islam? Are you trying to convert? You know that they convert to Islam and then they will force you to this and that. And it was that is programming. That is something you're putting in the person's head. And then when the person becomes older, if the person adapts to all that messaging, when the person becomes older, how does that person become get into a successful interfaith relationship when you're already coming with all that baggage? Now, I met one of my last neighbors in when I lived in the city of Ibadan. I left that city when I was 19 years old. And that man was the most successful interfaith relationship I've seen. He was the husband was Muslim, his wife was a Christian, very hardcore evangelical, which was weird to me. And I attended that was the first time I attended an interfaith marriage. The traditional marriage, they had both a priest, a reverend, and an imam. And it used to baffle me how they were so much in love. You saw this couple, it was so beautiful until I started talking to their in-laws. When you talk to the in-laws, oh, this woman came and stole our brother. Oh, this woman came and stole our brother. She just came for the money. But you talk to the wife's brothers, the sisters, ah, this, and they have something negative. That's where you start seeing the problem. The couple love each other, but it was always the problem with the interfaith relationship was never the two people who were in love. The two people who were down with it. It was the people, the outside influence. That's where the negativity kept coming from. And if the two people start listening to the negativity, then it starts to change. So, do you have to build your house where people expect you to build your house, or do you two of you decide I want to do this or that? It's up to you. Now, another example that came to my mind was my uncle, who used to be my favorite uncle. First time he brought a wife, who were in the early 90s, he brought a white woman to um, the matriarch of the family, and everybody was so excited. Hey, yeah, 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 happy. And then it didn't work out. That relationship didn't work out. And then the person who everybody knows for a fact that's the love of his life, he fell in love with this woman. Everything seemed perfect. That person, he couldn't get married to that person. Why? Nobody understood. I was still young at one point. Now later on, the story kept coming out that she's Ghanaian. That's why the matriarch of the family said no to him getting married to this person. No, you can't get married to this person. So it became like, oh, it's because he's a fish and she's a bird, or whichever way you want to go with it. But later on, the matriarch will move to the United States. When the matriarch got in trouble, she was staying around the area with that woman who was, it was claimed she was Ghanaian. That woman was not a Ghanaian even. She was from our tribe. But even if she was Ghanaian, it shouldn't have mattered because our grandfather had Ghanaian wives. The person who was denied from marrying that woman, his mother is Ghanaian. We have Ghanaian blood. So why was the woman denied? Why was our uncle denied from marrying the love of his life? He married someone from our tribe, someone from our village later on. But he still has an affair with this woman to this day. We know. Everybody knows. It's still so. How do you now define the fish and the bird? Because now he married someone else. They went to church, did everything, but he'll still be passing backyard to go meet the love of his life. She's in America. She will send tickets to him. He will fly and come here. And and we look at all that, and I'm like, so you know, the example we're told, oh, our grandfathers made his children swear, you must not marry Ghanaian, you must not have a Ghanaian spouse. But it was okay for him to have Ghanaian spouse, and he's the elder, so we all followed the example. And I'm like, that's BS. That is BS because I don't have to listen to that. And that's the fish and the bird. You can fishes and birds. I've seen a video of a fish and a bird being friends. There's a fish that lives on land that can come to land and survive on land for a few hours and go about his business. The mud skipper, it does its thing. There are birds that can dive deep into the ocean. For so there's animals are dark. There's different, people go beyond. Subhuman species intermingling. The Neanderthals, and I can't recall the other names. One of the names that stick in my mind. They all intermingled long time ago. and we're discovering all that now. So it's not like everybody was just playing one straight line. So you can build your house if you want. You can't go into business with somebody and say, I hate this person and I'm going into a business person. If you There's a certain amount of love that has to be in existence for you to go into a business or going to work with somebody. We all understand that. So fishes and birds, you can do your thing, but it's how you choose to define it or what you want to define it by that goes with it. So I don't think this or where you want to build your house, that where do you want to build your house? I think that's up to you. But the last example I would give is myself. So in 2010, no, 2009, I fell in love. Well, I thought I fell in love. Well, I fell in love. No, I won't say I fell. I fell in love with somebody, and I wanted to get married to the person. The truth of the whole matter is, yes, I was in love because I still love the person today. I love. She's one of the people I love the most in the world. But if I had married this person, I would have made her life miserable. I was the worst option for her to marry. Now, I won't say okay, I was the worst man for her to marry, the worst type of person for her to marry there. Because I was coming with a selfish idea. I was coming with a selfish agenda. Everybody around me in the Navy was getting married. It's like you join the Navy, you get married, your salary goes up. That was the idea that I came with. So that's the pressure. Everybody's getting married. Your mother is calling you. When are you going to get married? This one is calling you. When are you going to get married? When are you going to get married? Go to get married. Your paycheck is poverty level. You were poor. And it's like, okay, yeah, I met this great woman. She has the intelligence I like. She likes football like me. She's not crazy about church like me because I'm already breaking out of church by then. And I'm like, okay, yes. She lives in Nigeria. I can bring her over here. And it doesn't matter that I've been messing around with women here, but I'll just go back to Nigeria, bring her here. And yeah, everything will be fine. She'll give up her law degree that she just graduated with, and it will be perfect. I didn't think about her interest. I didn't think about what would make her happy per se. It was just about my goal. And luckily for me, she saw into my selfishness, but she didn't know how to vocalize it, and it didn't work out. And people were surprised, like, what? A woman didn't want to leave Nigeria to come and marry you? So they were blaming her. But it would take me years to have own up and say I was at fault and apologize to her for starting this journey. And today we are good friends. We're very good friends. But I had to own up and say it was not her fault. She was never at fault one because I'm the one who made the move. I'm the one who selfishly went there. I was a bad man. I was a bad person. So I was the type of person she shouldn't have built a house. As painful as it was for me to admit that, I had to admit that myself. So now if you want a true proper example of how something like this shouldn't have worked. And the crazy thing is that myself and this woman were born in the same city, were born at the same hospital, 2 days apart. So if you wanted something romantic to, yes, that it don't mean we should have been together. It doesn't mean that because I was coming with every negative reason to make a relationship. So yeah, in that situation, I probably was the fish, and she would have been a bird, a different type of bird, and would have built the wrong house. And by now, she would have been either miserable or I would have killed her or something. Yeah, because I was a totally different person. So those are the examples I like to give. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you, Simon, for organizing this as always. I use my time.
Thank you so much, dear brother, for all those excellent examples. And what really stood out for me is how we can program our children to have racist views, to have prejudicial views, and to look at people differently other than the fact that they're just human, just like us, having the same desires, the same cares, the same concerns, the same interests, that they just want to be your friend. Very simplistic, just to be your friend. And when it comes to relationships, this goes back to what Marlon was saying, what you said, Raphael, is that you have to know yourself. You truly have to know yourself, what's best for you, what's right for you, because family, tribal families, they can interfere and they can make or break your relationship, even if it was meant to be. If you don't know yourself, they can make and break your relationship. So you do want to strive to be aware of the type of individuals that you are and the type of person that would be best for you to have to build a home with and to have a long lasting relationship with. Thank you so much, dear brother. And I'm going to yield the mic back to Simon. Hopefully, Johnny is now in a position and a place where he can share.
Oh, sorry. Just a quick thing. I'm jumping out of the room now, so I'm switching to YouTube. Just letting everybody know. All right. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jay and Raphael. Raphael has been the most consistent guest to the live stream of the Daily African Proverbs. Really, I don't know. I'm just so grateful for you, my brother, for being on YouTube and supporting this conversation. And I also see a number of people from Kenya are actually on YouTube. It's 4 p.m. in Kenya right now. And I see Oliver in Kisumu, Kenya, is on YouTube engaging with our conversation. Thank you for joining us, Oliver. But really, we've gone a little over the time that we normally host the Daily African Proverbs. We always love ending at 7:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we are 30 minutes beyond the time that we would like to end. So I just ask that every contributor on stage, as well as our esteemed moderators and leaders on stage, please just have that in mind. And also know that we will have a beautiful recap after this room ends. Immediately after this room ends, we are going to go on Instagram for the recap of the Daily African Proverbs with my brother, the Kikombe. With that, I will pass the microphone to Johnny so that he can guide the conversation for the next few minutes. Thank you very much. This is Simon speaking. I think Johnny is away from his microphone, so I'll pass it to Samantha. Samantha is the inspiration for our Saturday sessions, where we hold this same conversation, but we have children in the audience. You hear children also interpreting the same proverbs, and it's really a beautiful, beautiful space. Samantha, this is a new phone actually. She had a I don't know what happened, but she had a different phone and a different account, and something happened that changed things. So she's just letting you know that this is her new phone number. Anyhow, she's a clinical research program manager, and she's many things. She's many things. She has lived internationally in the UK as well as the US, and she's been involved with a number of drug and device trials and community health advocacy. She's a creative culinary entrepreneur and cake designer, and she's also an African culture enthusiast who is based in New York. Samantha, please share with us your interpretation and also introduce our remaining guests on stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Simon, for the introduction. I'm so pleased. I have the week off today, this week, and so I'm able to join today's session, and it's been so filling. My cup is definitely overflowing just from the shares that everybody has contributed. So for me, this Proverbs, it speaks to the beauty and pain of love. It makes me think that while it is possible to love someone, it is also possible to love without being complimentary for the task. And according to this proverb in particular, the task is to build a home. So it is possible to love, to be in a love relationship, but for the task of building a home, it may not be enough. I've come to learn that if you're embarking on building a home, you shouldn't let love stop you short of diving into the important but sometimes difficult conversations that need to be had. Conversations that really get at the foundation of the relationship and exactly what you're looking to build. Conversations around religion, child rearing, if you two decide to, bear children in your marriage, money, political viewpoints, family upbringing, recognize that there will either be an alignment or compromise in that relationship, or you might just forge something new, completely new, and go against the grain. But I think it's very important that those conversations are had. If there is the sense of hesitation in discussing those topics, I think it's best to, just take a pause, take time with your courtship, with your relationship, or move on. Time is precious. So that's my thought on the proverb. At this time, I have the opportunity to introduce Kay Benjamin. I know Kay has definitely graced our stage before. She's in Atlanta, but she believes she is destined to live in Ghana. And as a fellow Ghanaian, Akwaba, you are welcome. In her profile, it speaks about her. She is is a sociologist, social worker, or she works in social services. As well, she's the founder of the international blackbook.com directory for Black people throughout the African diaspora, with information on business, nonprofit, NGOs. So do check out her profile. Kay, please do share your interpretation with us. Hi, Kay. If you're available, please do unmic your mic.
Oh,
wonderful.
Okay, I was chatting away. And thank you for the welcome. And Simon, thank you for this space. The proverb about the fish and the bird, I looked at it as these two animals have different ways of negotiating through life. A fish through water, a bird in the air. So the physical impossibility of them being able to build a home together, because it would have to do with survival in terms of the bird not being able to live underwater and the fish not being able to live without the water. So we could not have a home. But one of the things I think is that when we speak of love, we don't consider what we've added to it. We blame love for a lot of things, but if we really look at it, we've added jealousy or bitterness or many different other non-love things to the energy of love, but we continue to call it love. And I think this proverb is telling us we're starting with love. We're not going to get home, which of course is love again, back home, when we're functioning on two different ways of achieving that goal. And it reminded me too of a relationship that we met in love, but the other party had a different way of negotiating through life, that different from mine. Mine was, I don't have a thing about material things and money. I just don't care. But his way of traveling through life is that he must be able, and I was the one with money, he was the one without. He must be able to provide and protect. And it was so hard on him to not be what he thought he should be to negotiate through this relationship, that he really had the strength, I would say strength, because I did not have the strength to leave it, because as long as we were traveling on these, negotiating life in this different way, we would not be able to maintain our love. At the same time, I mentioned in my bio, I'm a multiple, and it's interesting the different things that people have to say about mental illness, and also dealt with depression. But I look at these things the same way you would diabetes or high blood pressure. It's the management issue. We had to change our ways. My alters had to change their ways of negotiating through life, not change who they are, because there was a lot of infighting and going on. When we changed our way of moving through life to love, and that is the basis of our relationship, I am now able to balance myself. So the key thing that I see when they talk of the fish and the bird, it's how you negotiate through life. And if you're negotiating through opposite or adverse, against each other, then you're not going to get back to love. So I think we all want to get back to love. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Kay, for that. Honestly, your phrase has just stuck with me. This idea of negotiating through life and, that relationship being, just that vehicle really to negotiate through life together. And sometimes you may start on that journey with love. But love is not sufficient. It's not sufficient enough of fuel to get you to that destination. So I really want to thank you so much for that. At this time, I'm going to introduce our next guest. This is Ivna. I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. Ivna he's an author. He is also a motivational speaker on diversity and inclusion, also a digital marketer, and a networker. So we look forward to hearing your interpretation, Ivna. Take it away.
Thank you so very much, Samantha, for your introduction. And it's a pleasure to be here on the stage to share my views on this proverb. A fish and a bird can fall in love, but cannot build a home together. It's it's very deep, but I want to reach to your soul, to your mind and heart to speak on this. A fish and a bird cannot build a home together, and I think this is a fair uh, division because the fish live in water. That's where they're comfortable. And the bird lives in space. This is where they're comfortable. This is where they conduct all the business, most of the businesses. It is likely that they may admire each other, but cannot build a home together. But what bothers me is not the fact that a fish and a bird cannot build a home together. I recognize the differences and I recognize that they share two different worlds. But what bothers me is the fact that us human, we are all human, and it is unfair to create divisions against our fellow humans. The world revolves around humans, not fish, not birds. We determine the workings of the universe within our control, not the animals. not stones, not the sky or the seas. If a man lives with himself, his kind, not with any other species, why create division, race, segregation, spite, hatred, wars against a fellow man? Why? Would we rather live with creatures of the sea or with animals and demons as against our fellow man? The point I'm trying to make is this: man constantly creates division between himself and his fellow man, believing that his fellow man is undeserving to be the same group or space with him. Who then should be deserving the space? If you look at our world, we are a divided world, whether it's racial divide or socioeconomic divide. We are all human with two legs, two ears, a head. We have the same physical attributes versus the fish and the bird, totally different. But they find a way to still love each other, although they cannot share the same space. They cannot build a home together. But we as human, we are the same in those aspects with two legs and and one nose and two ears. But though we share the same space, but cannot love each other. That bothers me. And I want you to hear this. We as human, it is our main essence to treat each other kindly, because the principal essence of man is to preserve the existence of the entire living race, including the fish, including the bird. One cannot preserve their fellow man without hanging on to the dictates of goodness, love, peace. And for every man who exists, he must ensure that he does not exist alone, and that he ensures that his fellow man is preserved as much as he is. When we begin to understand that is our essence as human, we will be on the right path to creating a better world for ourselves now and the next generations to come. My name is Yvonne Doroso. I am an author, an entrepreneur. This room is the wisdom room for me, because I come to digest these African proverbs, which are very deep and thought provoking. And I want you to realize something, that no matter where we are from, the color of your skin, we are all human. So division for human is unfair, as I talk in my book, Alike Regardless. This is where it began. The division between the fish and the bird is fair because they share a different world, different space. But division amongst us as human is unfair Again, my name is Evenair, and I yield my mic. Thank you for the opportunity.
Wow. Who? Um, I can't add to that. All I can say is, this is the purpose for which this room was created. For the proverbs to be ingested, digested, and just to be poured forth with so much wisdom and to really elevate our consciousness. Honestly, I'm so fed. um, this is definitely going to sit with me for a while. And thank you so much, Simon, for recording this, because I I just feel the need to just sit and marinate with the words of Evener, the words of so many that have gone before my words. I'm richly blessed. Um, at this time, I would like to pass the mic back to Simon. I think Johnny's back, and so he may be able to introduce the next speakers. Simon, are you there?
I am. I am so,
Wonderful.
yeah, I'm so grateful to you, Samantha, and wow, Ivna, you didn't drop the mic. I think you destroyed the venue. You destroyed the venue, and we need to build a bigger venue just to accommodate everything you just said. Really, I'm so grateful, and I want to pass the mic to my brother Johnny so that he can introduce Dr. Wanda as well as Tara to close us out. Brother Johnny, if you're there, the mic is yours. Just tap your mic first so that I can be sure. Perfect. Okay, Brother Johnny.
Wow. Yeah, give me a second, brother Simon. Give me a second. Please give me.
Yeah, we'll give Johnny a second to situate himself. And while we do that, I want you all to know that today's session has literally gone for 2 hours, 8 minutes to the 2 hour mark. And normally we host the Daily African Proverbs for 1 hour. So we try our best to accommodate, the expression of each other. And today it seems that this proverb elicited longer responses. But tomorrow, because our community here is becoming very compact, tomorrow let's try and be mindful of others that also have a desire to share, and also for us to be able to open up the stage quicker. It means that we just have to bear that a little bit more in mind. I actually want to go ahead and pass the mic to the Kikombe to introduce Dr. Wanda so that we don't keep her waiting, and then introduce Tara. Thank you so much. And Johnny will give you a moment to close us out.
Brother Simon, thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate you. Brother Johnny, I feel you. I feel you. The waterfall will never run out of the water. It will keep flowing. I'm with you, brother. I would love to introduce Dr. Wanda Satan. I apologize if I pronounce your second name wrong. But I also have to apologize that yesterday I didn't hear quite clearly what you mentioned, what you were the first female African American person to receive a certification in a certain degree. And I apologize, I wasn't paying attention. Please bear with me. However, Dr. Wanda has got a magnificent PhD. She's an entrepreneur and she uses an extensive science background. Wanda promotes responsible advising in personal care at the consumer level. Previously, she was a research scientist at several healthcare and pharmaceutical companies. Dr. Wanda, please share with us your interpretation for today's proverb that says, one who causes others misfortunes. Oh, my apologies. That was yesterday's proverb. Dr. Wanda, please share with us today's proverb, your interpretation for today's proverb that says, a fish and a bird might fall in love, but the two cannot build a home together. Dr. Wanda, I apologize for all those mistakes that I made introducing you. The stage is yours. Thank you.
Well, good morning, and I do appreciate that gracious introduction. So this Dr. Wanda Seaton, and my interpretation of the proverb, bird and a fish may fall in love, but they cannot build a home together. So the first thing I thought of is, okay, how did these two even meet? So they must have met on common ground. And that's where a lot of love is found, even despite our many differences. Love can be met on common ground. But it's saying that they cannot build a house together. So then that gave me another question. Does all love require a home? If love is supposed to live in the heart, there are cases of what they would call a fatal attraction, star-crossed lovers. It's the plot for many movies, even the famous Shakespearean play Romeo and Juliet. And I do believe that there are some people that we love, but we don't build homes together, but we still love them, and the love just has to kind of stay in our heart, in their heart. And as we're short on time, I won't be belingering it long. And just to clarify, yesterday, and in 2000, to get a PhD in biochemistry in the United States. So I was not the first ever, but I just happened to be the only one in that particular year in my country, which is the US of A. And I will close the mic because I am complete.
Dr. Wanda, thank you so much. Thank you so much. In any sense, I can almost familiarize the situation that you mentioned about being the only African American to have received degree in biochemistry in 2001 to the very powerful interpretation that Ivana gave us a while back. Sometimes if fish and birds can get together, what makes us humans not be able to love each other? Humans are not meant to be separate from each other. And if that goes by any sense with regard to races, then I hope that it sinks in with the gravity that it deserves. Thank you for sharing with us. I appreciate this moment. I have to apologize that it's storming outside there like nobody's business. It's pounding like it's about to break my roof, but I will try my best to introduce the next guest who might actually be our final guest. I call her TCC. TCC is an educator. She has just come from an educational convention. She is a producer, project manager, marketing strategist, serving creatives and businesses that work with creatives. She is also passionate about creating whole family education experiences outside the classroom to help build background knowledge, resources, community connections for vulnerable individuals, their families, and their communities. I'm not talking about anybody else. I'm not talking about Dalai Lama. I am talking about Tara Cloud Clark, who gives people services that are a list that I light graphic design, document creation, and writing. Big time clubhouse interests include social justice, creativity, recovering from evangelical Christianity. Tara Cloud Clark, you have been one of the most consistent guests in this room since when I started coming into this room from Africa Day, when you attended almost every single conversation for 24 hours. Tara Cloud Clark, please tell us your interpretation. A fish and a bird might fall in love, but the two cannot build a home together.
Thank you, Thakakombe. It was such a humbling introduction. Thank you. This often when I do come up to speak about a proverb, I try to listen. Um, these aren't necessarily my ancestors, and I try to honor that. My interpretation is through a different lens. But often when I do come up, it is because it directly relates to this room and my experience with it. So again, first of all, thank you so much for building this community, Simon, but also all the moderators who have been around since at least since I've been here. And then thank you, the Kakombe, and I appreciate our friendship.
I reduced my mic because I wanted to keep the conversation going on Clubhouse and also finish typing your name here before we get started. So, how are you doing? Are you doing okay?
I'm good, brother.
Nice.
My microphone now it wasn't working. My microphone, so I disconnected my mic.
You're fine. You're fine. You're doing well. So, are you on Clubhouse too? As we speak, are you on Clubhouse?
No, I disconnected from Clubhouse.
Okay, perfect.
So I can house. I wasn't sure it was sound.
Okay, so let's listen to what's being said on Clubhouse. Okay, I'll give you a moment to speak in a moment. Okay, perfect.
Our dependence on one another changes from survival to more enjoyment, then the roles that we expect other people to fulfill changes. So, as some have mentioned, you may have a romance with someone that doesn't necessarily end up in marriage, and that's okay for whatever reason. I have a friend who was a dear friend of mine for a few years, and that friendship ended, and it was very hard for me for a while because I thought I had failed as a friend, but I realized that not all relationships are meant to last forever, and that people are in your life for a reason and a time. And friendships, just the definition of friendship isn't necessarily someone you hang out with and play video games with, or whatever it is that you like to do, but it could be someone that you connect with in a certain way, as I have with this community. And that may be the only way, but that doesn't make them any less a friend. So I just wanted to point out that maybe we're not meant to build a home together, but that doesn't mean we can't have a relationship that is a beautiful and powerful thing. My name is Tara, and I am complete.
Tara, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for reminding us that we should not overlook the power of technology. And the world is transforming so much, and we should also realize that this transformation of the world is going from the point of looking at relationships from the point of survival to also enjoyment sometimes, or companionship forever. And therefore, judgment isn't necessarily something that we should carry with us. Thank you very much for sharing with us. At this point, please allow me to pass the microphone back to our brother Simon, who may be the person to close the room for us if our brother Johnny No Good is still not available. Simon?
Thank you so much, my brother Dikikombe. I am grateful. I am so grateful for everyone who created the time to join us for today's conversation here in the African Father in America Club. If you are joining the Daily African Proverbs for the first time, I encourage you to follow the African Father in America Club right at the top of your page if you're on Clubhouse. If you're joining us on YouTube, please remember to subscribe to the channel and share the video of this conversation that we are having with others who are not aware but might be inspired by this conversation that we are having today. Brother Johnny, I want to pass you the mic, but I do have a guest here with me live on YouTube, actually, Raphael Oyinle Yefa, the host of the White Label America podcast. He made it to YouTube and he's actually live with me. So if you tune in over there, you'll be able to see him. But I want to give him a chance to just give us his closing remarks once we hear from Brother Johnny. Brother Johnny, the mic is yours.
Thank you, brother Simon. Yeah, I had when you was giving me the microphone, I had just made it out the house. Brother Shamari had gave me a call, and I was doing some planning. We got a concert that's coming up September 24th, 2022, and so we was doing some planning. And I came outside. He was telling me about how it stormed so bad last night. And I came outside and I left my back window down, and a couple of my books got wet. So when y'all heard when I got the microphone, that was me realizing some of my books got wet. I got books from an elder that's talking about the great law of peace, which is the Iroquois nation, the League of Six Nations, which is the foundations of where the founding fathers of America actually based the Constitution off of. And that book got wet. So I'm extremely upset right now. So like y'all really heard in raw time, like hurt. That was hurt. That was pain. So thank you, Kikombe, for taking the microphone for me. I honestly didn't have nothing to say on the proverb. Every time it's about love, I become the student. And I just thank brother, I don't want to even butcher his name, Brother Yanir, for his interpretation. I came in on it and it was very profound and powerful. So thank you for that. And just as always, thank you, Brother Simon, for hosting this space, for upholding the wisdom of our African ancestors, and for making sure that we have a place to come to, congregate, and get our cups filled up and to pour our cups into others. So I just thank you for doing the work that you're doing. I look forward to hearing the comments of Brother Raphael. And with that, I yield the microphone back to you, King.
Thank you, Johnny. Man, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know how much you love books, so I'm sorry. I would love to know the names of the books that you might have lost so that, we can hopefully contribute to getting you those books back. Man.
Yes, I got my Encyclopedia of Natural Medicine, the third edition that just got wet. I got a landscaping, planning, and environmental impact design book that got wet, which I'm not too, I don't care about that as much. But the book that I think that's going to be the hardest to find is The Great Law of Peace of the Longhouse People. Is just a very rare book. I could PTR it, but I don't know. I'll PTR it, but it's a very rare book.
Johnny, this moment actually reminds me of a proverb that we shared recently. I can't remember what it is exactly, but it referred to whenever there is a challenge, there is also an opportunity. So this moment here is a moment of a huge opportunity in relation to you and books, and also with the amazing club that you created, also known as Yes, Black Men Read. I think all those things are connected, but I just want to connect with you off of this current conversation. I want you to know that I'm sorry about what just happened, and I will follow up with you. I'm very, very sorry. Now, Raphael Oyinlayefa, the host of the White Label American podcast, is here with me. He's going to share his closing remarks, and then we are going to close our room today. Raphael, the microphone is yours.
All right, thank you for having me as always, Brother Simon. It's Raphael Oinlayefa Harry, but the app decided to just leave my middle name, so my middle name is my last name today. So when Brother Johnny was talking, I was like, that was like it felt like I was being flogged because yeah, that was that was a tough one to take, man. So brother Johnny, I'm with you. Yeah, I feel you, brother. I feel you on that. Because that just took me out of everything I had planned to say. Because I feel like I'm the one who just got fly. I don't know, man. But I commiserate with you, man. Yeah, just know that I'm with you, brother. I'm with you. You know, we're sending love to you. Because yeah, I know what it's like to lose books that I value, and there are some books that I can't recall the titles, but I just have images in my head of those books, and either someone stole them or it got I was careless once and it got beat in the rain. It got and different things happened, and it's one of those painful memories. But um, yeah, so yeah, just know that you're not alone in this. You're never alone. So today's conversation has been very fruitful. I learned a lot. I What really resonated with me was the disabilities talk. I'm a veteran also with disabilities, but I'm able to. I look, like I can perform. I can function normally. So people always assume that yeah, there's nothing wrong with you. You can, I'm nothing wrong with me, but I have disabilities, and I'm not afraid to say it. I always put it out there so that people who have similar understand that uh, we exist and we do need to be catered to. And those of us who aren't in our position, who aren't as fortunate to be where we are, still need to be catered to. And that's why we need to hold those in power accountable to do better. And it doesn't mean only just those in the United States, it means everywhere, every government, everywhere should always look for how to make things accessible to people with disability, and not just only the government, every one of us. So I really love what Mama said when she said, talking to someone in a wheelchair, eye contact, coming to hug somebody. That was really, really important. Every time I go to the Veterans Hospital, I tend talking to older veterans. They love sharing stories. They just want somebody to talk to. I have someone who's 95 years old. He doesn't remember a lot of stuff, but he remembers everything he did during World War II. He's a 95-year-old white guy, but yeah, so you get some racist talk from him. But I'm not trying to teach you how to solve racism. You're 95 years old. You have a few months left or a few days left. I don't know, before you leave. So it's a relationship. He's technically a bird and I'm a fish. I always go by fish because of my tribe. We are water. I love being around water. I find peace when I'm around water. So I will always identify with and living in water. I'm a aquatic person. My daughter loves water too. Yeah, so that's me, and that's why today's proverb spoke a lot to me, and I hope that everybody got something from it. And yeah, so thank you a lot, brother Simon, and yeah, everyone keep the love coming in and support coming in, and keep spreading the word around. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
Thank you so much, my brother Raphael Oyinlayefa Hari. Now I know why you don't always want to share your whole name. It's not easy to pronounce.
Man, you
but
better get it
listen,
right, because most white people get it right. Most white people get it right the first time, so you feel I come after you, like I come after brother Kikombe for calling me Malian.
I know. Anyhow, thank you so much for being here with us today, and thank you everyone for joining us for today's Daily African Proverbs. I am extremely grateful. See you on Instagram with the Kikombe in just a few minutes. Peace and love.
All right, peace, everyone.
Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. African father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. African father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Africa, tujikaze, tujikaze, America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javan Okello, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.